It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
Seth asked this next question, Brian, and this is one I think that we don't talk a ton about, but I think it's a really important one. Can I use money saved in the hyperaccumulation phase of FOO for a house down payment, or should I save for that separately? For reference, my fiance and I are in our 20s. So one of the things we often talk about is as you're building up through the financial order of operations, and if you don't have the deliverable, go to moneyguide.com/resources and look at the free deliverable. If you want to check out the course, go to learn.moneyguide.com and you can see what we're talking about. But a lot of people see in there, we focus on all the tax incented savings, whether that be Roth IRAs or HSAs, 401ks. We focus on risk mitigation. That's your emergency reserve, deductibles covered. But then we do get into this other strata where we call hyperaccumulation. That's building up like after-tax assets, building up that third bucket of money if you're thinking about a bucket strategy. Well, we often talk about that third bucket being so valuable because it allows you to pick and choose what you pay in retirement. If you have these three different buckets, you can pull from different buckets at different times to control your tax situation. Or maybe if you're an early retiree, it might serve as bridge money to help get you from age 50 to 59 and a half or 54 to 59 and a half. But what a lot of people don't realize is that when you're in that hyperaccumulation phase and you're building up dollars in that after-tax account, it's not uncommon, and we've seen our clients do this before, those dollars, while they are earmarked and should be used for retirement, that does not mean that they have to stay in their current form where they presently are. A lot of times those dollars can serve as the mechanism that provides opportunities for other options that come into your purview. Yeah. So in your mind, Brian, is it okay to use those hyperaccumulation dollars before retirement, and how should you go about thinking through that?
This is why we're a good team, because while you were going through that, what I have kind of dovetails nicely into it is because when I think about housing, there's two things that pop to mind. And specifically with financial order of operations, this is why the course is better than just the free deliverable and the fact that we get to get into the weeds of the situation, because your primary residence is completely different than investment property. Yep. And I tell you, in the beginning, we talk about real estate when we do the deep dive on the financial order of operations is that basic real estate that will provide for your family shelter is really a ground rule, meaning it's not step one, it's not step two, it's not step three. It's actually something that's sitting in the background, and then we've created special rules that give you the flexibility that your first home purchase, you don't have to put down 20%. I know that's what all the other talking heads will tell you, but we give you the actual reality of housing situations of financial mutants and others is your first house. You might only put down 3 to 5%.
Yep.
It's just the reality of the situation, and I think that builds up in the background. It's separate to, you don't have to get to step 8 to do that. Just we're giving you the grace and the flexibility to know that first home purchase might be a 3 to 5% down payment just to get you on the ownership train. So now where this comes into play on this question, though, is that a lot of people will then write us and say, what about rental property?
Yeah,
what if I want to go buy my first commercial building to put my business in and those type of things? Then yes, that situation is going to be around step 8 of the financial order of operations, not a ground rule like your primary residence that will actually be where you house your family to live and sleep every night. But when it comes to investments, we think that since it is an investment part, we want to make sure we've maxed out retirement like step 6. We've gotten into step 7, which is hyperaccumulation. So, but I think that you said this was Seth.
This was Seth, yep.
So Seth, if this is your primary residence, use the grace of that 3 to 5% to kind of figure out how the housing comes in. If you're already at step 7 and you're asking this question, more than likely, if this is your first house, you're already in that cool zone of moving forward and doing something for your family.
Yeah, and by the way, the fact that you're even asking this question, the fact that you are thinking of yourself as a hyperaccumulator, a saver of more than 25% before you're married and you have a fiance and you're having these kind of conversations, that's awesome. You are set up well for a bright future.